Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of July 27, 2020. First, let's do a really quick recap of the predictions for the previous week. For the stock market direction, my predictions were down on Monday and Tuesday, potentially a large drop, then Wednesday up, and again down on Thursday and Friday. I was correct for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But my expectations of Monday and Tuesday being down days were incorrect. On Monday, market went up, Nasdaq went up, and Dow Jones rose about 0.03%. And then on Tuesday, at the end of the day, the results were mixed, with Nasdaq going down and Dow Jones going up. We do have still in play from the previous year into the end of this year, the influence that typically coincides with increased in seismic activity and large geopolitical shifts, as well as maybe large disasters, things where old structures basically fall apart and new structures have to be rebuilt. This concerns both physical, like buildings, and as well as leaders at the corporation, sort of a corporate level, and leaders of the governments. We did have several major earthquakes last week, and one of them, I guess, worth mentioning, 6.3 in China, and then another one, 7.8 off of the coast of Alaska. And this influence is slowly fading away. We will have some more increase of this activity towards the end of the year, but I would say the peak probability maybe already have passed, maybe some new flare-ups towards the end of the year, like I said. And of course we have a lot of turmoil in terms of the different tensions among various countries, US and China, to name one. And of course sort of power fighting for the leadership positions. And let's see, I did not see any news about leaders specifically passing away or being removed, leaders who were in power for a long time or older leaders. We did have some news about relatively old, famous actors in the US passing away, or rather one of them was just a TV personality, not just, but a famous TV personality, Regis Philbin, host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and of course of many other programs. And also Olivia de Havilland, apparently the last surviving star of Gone with the Wind, and she was 104 years old, which is quite impressive. So again, these were not necessarily powerful leaders, and every year we have some important, I guess, famous actors and actresses passing away, but I just thought this was worth mentioning because both of them were somewhat noteworthy, and this is what I saw in the news, and that's basically where I get the feedback on the predictions that I made, is from the headlines in the news. So things that are maybe something that you need to go find, and it's not a headline, I don't necessarily consider to be worth mentioning. For one, I don't have time to go look into it, and two, is really what makes the news that makes it into the public consciousness is really what I believe the astrology really picks up on the best, not necessarily what's happening behind the scenes, because again, it's not obvious. So let's see. So moving on with the review of the predictions and what happened last week. Another ongoing prediction that I've made, and that's going to be sort of ongoing influence through the end of this year, and that's for both globally as well as for China and the US, where we will have increased focus on things related to like nuclear power, power in general, meaning like powerful individuals and powerful groups or groups who are looking to gain power, especially through illicit means, such as hacking, spying, as well as power as in like the criminal world, and of course police or agencies that are trying to stop them, as well as power in terms of like just power plants that are generating power, and anything to do with like secret activities, underground activities, again being literally underground storage mining or secretive underground kind of illegal activities. And basically my prediction is that through the end of this year, with peak sort of right about now and slowly going away, I guess fading away in July, but then final peak kind of coming still in November of this year. We will have increased news about these kind of topics, and it may be manifested as whistleblowing about some problems with leadership or some financial fraud or problems with, say, loans or taxes, companies going bankrupt, and some shakeups at the tops of the such large companies, because again, things need to be maybe again to take care of finances, or because again somebody is caught doing something illegal and that person needs to be replaced, or new rules need to be put into place to prevent the spying, hacking, or illegal activities from reoccurring. And also this influence is maybe associated with increased news about either attacks or danger involving either places or individuals that relate to like religious places, diplomats, embassies, courthouses, judges, colleges, and professors. So sort of like these educated, esteemed, I guess, individuals or places where they may be working. And last week we did have news about an attack on the family of a judge who was basically investigating the case between like Deutsche Bank and related to Epstein. So unfortunately it's a situation there, and as I said, this may peak yet again in November, so we may see a repeat of these activities, a follow-up to these activities. Of course, we just recently had this news about the Twitter hack, but that was previous week. So concerning last week, on the 25th of July, there was a announcement by the Department of Energy in the US that they're basically planning to build nuclear reactors, specifically designed to be placed on Moon and or Mars. And so let's see, there was also on the 23rd of July, I guess in the news again, the scandal about the bribery in Ohio, about 60 million, I guess, in bribery that was given. Apparently, again, this I guess is still under investigation, to a House Speaker Larry Householder, and that's sort of like the payment that I guess to solicit or to ensure that the 2 nuclear power plants in Ohio get the subsidy from the state, and they got about $1.3 billion package. And so apparently somebody got bribery for this to happen, and that's I guess the scandal. And we also have there was also some news about ex-president of Ecuador, Korea, being sentenced for bribery case to 8 years, as court had dismissed his appeal. So I guess this does talk about, or rather this is an example of manifestation of like powerful leaders being in some sort of a trouble, but again, they weren't necessarily removed last week. But rather, I guess they were prominently in the news, and again, the association was with either bribery or some sort of illicit activities. And again, this will remain sort of in the news, or these sort of topics, like, again, nuclear power, either literally physically power plants, or any sort of illicit activity associated with them, or just illicit activities in general, and any sort of groups that are either engaged in that or groups that are engaged in fighting that, sort of will be prominently featured through the end of this year, and it will be around in November where we may see another sort of uptick in similar type of news. Let's see. And also for US, I have a prediction, again, this long-standing prediction that from about January of 2020 through December of 2021, and again, another uptick will be in November, but this is this background influence for US, that there may be increased focus on also various international negotiation, diplomatic relations, partnerships, etc. And again, news may come up about spying, hacking, but also concerns about debt, loans, rates, and or businesses involved, especially in communication and transportation. And again, concerns about the insurance fraud, financial fraud in general, and that may necessitate some sort of follow-up activities from the government to kind of restrict the financial flows or control flows better, or to regulate things so that things are safer, like some sort of safety controls, improve the safety of women and children. Of course, we have these ongoing cases of this Ghislaine Maxwell, and then we have concerns, of course, about healthcare, but that's, I guess, global, not just specific to the US. However, there was news specifically last week that I guess Goldman Sachs had settled reached settlement with Malaysia about 3.9 billion settlement over the one Malaysia development, the Bihar, over the $4.5 billion apparently stolen there. And again, this is one manifestation about, again, this kind of a financial fraud type of news. And I'm sure, I didn't read necessarily all the details, but I'm sure that had necessitated in some reshuffling of, the leadership, or perhaps changes in how things operate to prevent such situations in the future, or at least something. I'm sure there were some follow-up actions. Also, another news that came out last week on July 20th, it had to do with that the E-Trade shareholders approved Morgan Stanley takeover. Again, I'm sure this will involve some sort of restructuring or, changes in leadership, etc. Let's see. And there was also an announcement on the 24th of July that Nike shook up its executive team and announced some job cuts. So as I said, in addition to this background influence, again, for the US, which I believe will be in place actually through even the next year, where such, big shakeups at the corporations will continue to occur. I did specifically made prediction for the previous week, for the 20th of July, that there may be stressful news about the leaders and various governmental decisions. Some leader may be ousted, or there may be shakeups at the leadership, and that there may be concerns about the safety, stability of banks, and homeland security. And there may be announcement about corporate restructuring. So as I said just a few minutes ago, there was an announcement about, Morgan Stanley takeover of E-Trade being approved on the 20th exactly, and then on the 24th is when we had the announcements about Goldman Sachs reaching settlement with Malaysia, and Nike announcing job cuts and changes to its executive team. So another prediction that I made that's more specific to both, I guess, global developments as well as US as well as China is, again, focus on this nuclear power, radiation, power plants, recycling, as well as underground or secretive activities. And again, this will be in place through the end of this year, with sort of a increase in news in July, and then again in November. And that there may be some news also, like I said, about the secretive activities, spying, hacking, even terrorist activities, or sort of arguments about what's the right way to do things, either about some religious dogmas or just about who's has the moral higher ground. And that's, again, globally, and US and China in particular have transits to their charts that sort of indicate increase in such topics in the news. And we did have, of course, news about rising US-China tensions, with the Chinese consulate closed in Houston, Texas, and then also there was news about US indicting two, in quotes, state-backed Chinese hackers for stealing military secrets and coronavirus data, and that all happened early in the week, 21st and 22nd of July, and then subsequently on the 24th of July, Beijing retaliated by closing a US consulate in Chengdu. So again, this is the influence that is going to be with us the entire year, and it will actually pick up this year. It will pick up in November yet again. And for both China and US, there's some significant times in their charts, especially, let's say, for China, November 11th through the 13th. As you see, there were these relatively stressful news, especially about rising US-China tensions last week. However, this was partially why I expected markets to go down. However, markets actually were either slightly up or ended up mixed. And then speaking of China and related situations, I made also prediction, again, this is a long-standing prediction that's good through the end of this year, about like coronavirus outbreak, that there would be 3 waves, and second wave is right about over in July, but then it will be kind of news may pick up end of October through November, especially I'd say November 9th through 13th, and there may be increased news either about some developments related to that, like a spike in deaths or announcement about some sort of a cure, or perhaps regulations or some radical measures implemented to take care of it. And so this last week we did have news that after like 4 days of talks or something, EU nations agreed to the 2.1 trillion budget and coronavirus relief plan. And then there was also news out of China that they offered 1 billion loan to Latin American countries to basically help them ensure easier access to China's coronavirus vaccine whenever that is going to be available. And the same week, on the 22nd of July, there was also an interesting piece of news out of, yet again, China, about the research that they've done, biomedical research, where they develop a new blood test that apparently can detect 5 types of cancer years before the current methods can do that. Again, I did not have a chance to actually read that thoroughly as far as like, is that the legitimate test, and what exactly did they do to come up with the, and what, who were the participants and all that stuff. But again, like I said, just based on the fact that we did have these manifestations right around the same time, where we have these transits happening in China's chart that indicate uptick in the news related to either pharmaceuticals or biomedical research, or even secretive studies, or anything that's not necessarily secretive, but things that happened behind the closed doors in the secluded areas. Of course, if you have some sort of dangerous things you're working with in the lab, it has to happen behind the closed doors, or better be in some secretive, closed, well protected location. And indeed, we had such news out of China last week. And again, the final sort of either news, perhaps it will be a developed vaccine, or could be a regulation about how those labs should operate, or some sort of a final announcement. Perhaps it will be opening the businesses completely, or whatever that may be, or even closing things. I mean, whatever that may be, it will be coming still in November, and that's both globally, and I see important dates for that in both US and China charts. And then finally, again, wrapping up the review of the predictions for the last week, specifically for July 24th or 28th, I made prediction that there would be increased news about like hot and humid and windy weather. Of course, not unusual for this time of the year, certainly in the northern hemisphere to have hot and windy weather. But I made prediction that there would be some news about destroying crops, and or there may be also news about transportation accidents, or even fires, and shootings or attacks, fighting. And it may involve racing or sports personalities, and even an example that I made specifically was that a prominent athlete may be in the news due to a car accident or verbal attacks. And on the 22nd of July, there was news that a footballer, or I guess soccer player, was set on, or the person's car, I guess the person's name was Ronel Pierre Gabriel, who had just joined the League One Brest. I guess the playing for the French, I guess this is a top French club. And basically this person was attacked, assaulted, and their car was set on fire. And that's exactly the type of sort of, again, transits that I was seeing, where it would be related to like cars or transportation in general, something to do with sports and fires and attacks. Obviously, all of that unfortunately came true. And obviously not every athlete everywhere was attacked, and every person's experienced such a situation. Obviously it has to match, the transit has to match one's individual chart, where the tense aspects happen to be aspecting one's individual chart, just like a chart, like so, where that manifestation is more likely for the particular person, where of course this is a general prediction and will not necessarily manifest the same way for everybody. And other similar manifestations, of course, there were some news in the US out of Chicago. There was a crossfire at a funeral home. 14 people were injured. That's on the 22nd of July. On the 23rd of July, there was a piece of news related to the weather, that eastern US was lashed by 2 ferocious, in quotes, once in 50 years storms, and those occurred back to back in the span of 2 weeks. And there was also an emergency directive issued by FAA to Boeing on 24th of July, saying that basically the corrosion on their 737 aircraft could cause an engine failure. We also had a tropical storm Hannah that was upgraded to the first hurricane in Atlantic season, and then it had become tropical depression and unleashed some flooding there in, I guess, South Texas and northeastern Mexico. And of course in the US, there are continuing and going riots in like Seattle and Portland area. So this hot, this tension, whether it's the hot weather or attacks or, just unrest, that obviously did manifest in multiple ways last week. So moving on to this week, the 27th of July, Monday, looked to be like the worst, more stressful day. And as I said, I did expect it to be a big drop in the stock market, followed by an up move on Tuesday. However, as I'm recording this after the market already had closed, market went up, both Nasdaq and Dow Jones. That said, we did have interesting piece of news that the gold had reached, I guess, the all-time high, and I guess rose like 2% today. And so it is interesting to me. Of course, it rose on some concerns about the economy. So it is interesting because typically, from what I understand, you would have, gold going up while market is going down, so that investors could kind of park their money in a safe asset. At the same time, we had, markets going up, and we also had really big jump, I guess, in gold prices. So while there are concerns about the economies, basically the markets did not go down as I had expected. In terms of other turmoil, kind of upcoming news as we're approaching August, this will be next week, of course, or the following week, and I'm not as concerned, I guess, for the rest of this week in terms of like some problematic situations, but I think August is a month definitely to watch. There will be even more shakeups, either at the corporate level, restructuring, job layoffs, and increased probability of various like natural disasters, sudden like changes in power, leadership, even wars. And yet again, both China's and US charts happen to experience these transits. So it's a global influence, but China and US will experience it, I guess, stronger than maybe some other countries. And for US, I would look for August 13th through the 21st to be this kind of a peak time. And for China, August 9th through the 17th. And again, there could be restructuring, some sort of problems with corporate leaders, various shakeups, bankruptcies, concerns about loans, debt. And in China, perhaps again about some secretive activities, spying, could be their spying or they're being spied on, and or some developments related to healthcare, pharmaceuticals, oil, navy, etc. Let's see, other ongoing trends are, as I already described, oil prices. I do expect increased focus on oil prices from about July 26th through the 28th. And that could involve oil, gas, as well as chemicals, any sort of derived, I guess, materials. And again, I still think that there may be a down day, but it probably, if it wasn't Monday, I think it will be Wednesday, perhaps. And this could be, again, related to concerns about oil. Of course, there are these tensions about Nord Stream 2, I guess this pipeline that Russia is building. So this could be it, and or there may be some additional news still coming up tomorrow that are specifically related to value of gas, oil, etc. Let's see. And then the next sort of big or rather important time period for oil prices to look for would be starting about, again, November of this year through about February of next year, and especially end of January. And there we may hear kind of more about some surprises or some problems with companies experiencing bankruptcies. Of course, this may decrease yet again the need for oil, and oil prices may go down. At the same time, there may be some turmoil in financial markets. Again, that's especially January, the end of January 2021. And so again, there may be some kind of a turmoil in the stock market, as well as concerns about oil and concerns about, large corporations, again, either due to bankruptcies or leadership changes, and particularly the sectors that might be affected could be finance, banks, value of currencies, as well as airlines, telecommunications, and IT companies. And again, could be just decreased travel, more restrictions, and oil prices down. And then after that, another sort of spike in potentially difficult situations related to oil or oil producers will come in about April of 2021. And I would look for about April 8th through 11th for like a peak time where there may be some tensions over oil or fighting over oil. Maybe it will be OPEC countries again discussing some sort of production cuts and disagreeing on it, or just fighting in the areas of the world where oil is being produced. And again, there may be a large market drop around April 8 and or 9 of 2021. So specifically for this week, as I mentioned, I thought that 27th will see a large market drop, and market didn't drop, although we did have increased investment in gold today. For the July 26th to 29th, again, there might be increased concerns about the value of oil, gas, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals, as well as other Neptunian matters such as beverages, music, like the equipment to produce, say, movies or videos, or perhaps even beverages, as well as like Navy ships, transportation over water, even water pollution, mental health, religion, all of these kind of matters. There may be some concerns about these matters, or there could be a financial problem. Maybe something rises or drops in price dramatically, or maybe sale or purchase can't go through, like acquisition stalls, or literally ship can't go through. There's a maritime, some sort of disaster, or there's a problem, or the price of some medicine cannot be established, or it is overpriced or underpriced, or there may be some news about prominently the religious figure or somebody who's famous, like an actor, mishandling money or overspending or donating illegally, or money literally disappearing and no one knows where it went, and is related to either place of worship or movies or some other hidden scheme that have to do with like things that literally disappear and they're not traceable. And that again can be still possibly we'll hear about this 28th and 29th of this week. There may also be, of course, concerns about some sort of profits due to another spike of the coronavirus. Let's see, and that would particularly affect retail sales, education, and communication, transportation related businesses. And that was globally. And then for US, July 27 and 28, especially the 28th, look like significant dates where we may have positive news, such as improved earnings, additional funding granted, increased value, some permissions being granted, or some other beneficial developments related to either sports, racing, engines, military, also stock market, entertainment industry, and casinos. So any sort of like this risk-taking activities or businesses that are moving fast, startups, for example, may hear some positive news again. They get either tax break or some sort of additional funding, or their value may increase, or they may report higher profits than expected. And there may also be increased news about international agreements, like getting some new partnerships, into some new partnerships. Deals may be, however, deals, if they're reached at this time, they may appear positive or sort of profitable at this time. So I guess the value, therefore, of these companies may go up based on these deals, and I guess the market may go up also, especially on Tuesday, because of these hopes. However, there may be something confusing or something misleading or something omitted from the information that will come initially about these agreements. So therefore, either something is overvalued, or the expenses that are initially estimated may end up to be much higher, or the value may be basically significantly lower than is currently estimated. And the deals, these agreements may involve, again, all these Neptunian subject, like music, chemicals, etc. But also they may involve like weapons, military, or any of these kind of a risky or fast-moving projects, anything that needs to be moving fast. It could be even a project for military that's based in, laying a cable really fast or something like that, under the water especially. So any of this combination of these situations, let's see. And again, initially the market will probably go up, the expectations will be high, positive outcomes will be reported, but eventually, like I said, the value may not be there, or not be as high, or the expenses may be higher than expected. For China, July 27 and 28 also look significant. There we may have an important public announcement or an event that affects large groups of people, or is made at like this public place, maybe at some sort of a conference or big on a big stage. And it may be related to the country's goals and ambitions, especially in the area of finance, increasing earnings, banking, currencies, etc. And the goal of this announcement of this project will probably involve increasing profits, either kind of better managing in financial investments and regulating risky financial activities, or vice versa, maybe going with some sort of a really risky plan, because again, that offers increased earnings faster, as well as offering financial help. And I guess they did just offer financial help, like to South Latin America, in the form of a loan to basically purchase, I guess, vaccines for this COVID virus from China. But there may be more coming still, 27, 28th of July. Let's see, then for the US specifically, July 28th through 31st, especially the 29th of July, may be important in terms of increased news about oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, beverages, as well as, again, Neptunian topics such as Navy, marine life, even fishing, water pollution, water transportation, as well as real estate, food production, homeland security, and even banks and banks' assets. There we may hear about either decreased earnings, loss of value, lack of financing, or excessive prices. On Wednesday, I think the market may go down, then go back up on Thursday, and again down on Friday. Globally, July 29th, 30th, which is Wednesday and Thursday, may see some increased news about either on some international deal or agreement or some negotiation, and especially this may be especially related to like immigration, education, like higher education, travel, long distance travel especially, communication and transportation. So again, usually this import-export, traveling across borders, etc. And the announcement may involve legalizing something, such as, here's your new way of how to cross border, or implementing a new law, opening, closing some retail locations, again, specifically related to like companies in one area or one country, but locations are in another country and they may open or close them, or vice versa. They may be, not vice versa, but they may also be announcing closure or opening of some travel hubs, or perhaps even opening and shutting of some transportation routes, and again, international routes. Let's see, then on July 30th through August 1st, especially on the 31st, which is, 31st, which is, I guess, Friday, there may be increased focus on sales, retail sales, communication, transportation, or either sales of, or communication about, or transportation of materials that are derived from underground, such as rocks, metals, like iron, steel, or businesses that are related to mining, excavation, recycling, nuclear power, secretive sort of activities, such as, spying, hacking, terrorism, or by, companies or businesses that are specifically focused on, catching these illegal activities, like investigating insurance fraud, or, police or FBI, somebody who will be catching and stopping such illegal activities. And there we may hear about some either agreements related to these kind of businesses or these kind of projects that are in the works, or just increased coverage in the news of related events. And these may be slightly stressful because if, say, there is an agreement pending, it may not be easily achieved because, again, one party may be manipulating the other party or blackmailing them, or basically demanding something in return. And if there's an agreement, like a sale of some raw materials, for example, that again are excavated, this agreement will probably be biased and favoring one party a lot more than the other. And so this may also, of course, provoke some sort of a dispute because, again, some parties may be arguing back and forth because the terms of the agreement may not be fair, and or there may be a dispute involving some suspicious situation where one party may accuse the other of spying, hacking, or illegal sales, like of a sale of a land, building, a bank asset, or there may be also increased focus on like rates, debt, taxes, insurance, changes in those areas, but also whether or not the approach, I guess, is legal, or there will be disagreement about basically the implementation, or whether or not they should be even, I guess, attempted. The change should be attempted in, say, tax, for example, Texas. And the news, again, may be slightly stressful, and if there's a demand, for example, by one party, like, say, public demands, maybe some sort of a fiscal, break, increased, payment for something, or reduced taxes, or change in loan terms, better rates, or whatever the request that may come from the public or from one side that's arguing, chances are the request will not be answered, or the agreement will not be reached, or, like I said, if it is reached, chances are it will be heavily favoring one side and not reached on sort of fair terms. And let's see, for next week, for Monday, August the 3rd, looks like a really important day, and as of now, I think it might be an up day, and specifically because there might be an announcement out of US about some sort of a either rates or financial changes, as in like maybe financial stimulus or something along those lines, or something to do with debt, again, insurance, taxes. But either way, whether it's going to be, up or down, again, I think it might be an up move. 3rd of August, we'll probably see really large market moves. Could be profit taking, could be maybe market going up in the morning, and followed by really sort of a strong down move even at the end of the day because of people basically cashing in. And chances are there may be some events preceding that on the weekend of August 1st and or 2nd, where some agreement is reached. And like I said, this could be reached under pressure. One side is pressuring the other, and conditions are sort of unfavorable to one and terms are unfair, but some agreement may be signed at that time, and that potentially is what may be influencing this large move in the market on August 3rd, which is again a week from now. So let's see. So that's about it. That wraps it up for me for this week's prediction. I hope you're having a fantastic summer and enjoying these videos, and come back and check me out next week. Until then, bye guys.